hopefully have you guys all started your business plan for 2025? Raise your hand. Some of you guys have, right? Okay, so good. So majority hasn't. So we bring up Sarita, and she's gonna go through a whole speed through a business plan for you to jumpstart 2025.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. How are you? I've got a sexy topic, business planning. My name is Sarita Dua. I'm from Portland, Oregon. We do spend some time here in New York as well. We have a place in New York, so I'm mainly based in Portland. That's where my business is, but my heart is in New York, and I love being here. I was here for the marathon. How do you know when someone does a marathon? They won't shut up about it, right? So I did the marathon, and Simon reached out and said, hey, are you in town? Let's do this. So thank you. So today I'm going to talk about, again, a sexy topic, business planning, but the timing of this topic is so perfect because this is the time we need to talk about goal setting and business planning for the year. Next slide. So how many people love business planning? Raise your hand, honestly. Okay, now let's talk about the other side. How many people dread it? Like, hate it, it's a necessary evil, I'd rather put needles in my eyeballs. It's really pretty extreme, right? Some people love it, some people hate it. My goal today is to tell you some tips that you can take away to make it a really effective tool to have a great year in 2025. Next slide. I am big on, actually, before I jump into it, really quick about my business. Based in Portland, Oregon, I am very much in production. I employ the showing agent model. So some of the things you can come find me about and talk to me about in the next couple of days, like today and tonight, is showing agent model, location-based freedom. I'm a big fan of traveling and working from anywhere I am. I also have a very strong allied resources and vendor program that I'd love to share about too. So that's a little bit about me. Our best year, we did 78 million in production, 144 transactions. We usually average about 100 transactions or so. Average price point, $700K. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you the cheat sheet on the couple things to think about, so that if you take nothing else, you already kind of know some things that I wanna make sure you don't forget. And the first is, how do we successfully plan for 2025? To successfully plan for 2025, we have to set clear expectations, and it's an active event. It's an active exercise between you and yourself if you're an individual agent, or between you and your team if you're on a team. It's not just, let me write this down in a book and forget about it. We're gonna talk about the steps on printed materials that will assist in the process. And you really do want to get organized. I am part of an organization called Place. Place is the sponsor of this event, and Simon and John are key partners of ours, as are many people in this room. Place provides a lot of tools. My goal isn't to push Place, but I am going to cheat and show you some of the tools that Place uses that you can rip off and duplicate, so that if you understand how an organization is using templates and resources to help you, you can, again, do this yourself or kind of inquire with us if you want to learn more. You want to personalize the experience. I can't go to Seth and Sandra and anyone and be like, here's the thing, and do exactly this. It's very custom to you, your team, and your goals. But the frameworks I'm going to give you will work no matter where you're at. You want to create an environment for success. We're agents that like to wing things. We wing a lot of things. We can't wing this. We can, and we oftentimes do, but then we pay the price because the business planning exercise is done in a vacuum and we forget about it, and it's not ingrained in what we do. So you want to actually set up an environment, which we're going to talk about here. You want to set up an environment for success, and you have to follow up. Next slide. What not to do. Again, can't wing it. Don't host an event without preparing. Don't show up at the event thinking about business planning for the first time. Do not make it a one-time thing. That's what a lot of us do. Oh, I'm actually ahead of the game. It's October. I'm thinking about business planning. I set a date. We're doing it. Just because you thought about it before January 1 doesn't mean you get a gold star for business planning, because it's more than just a one-time thing. And we'll talk about what I mean by that. Do not skip the pre-work that you have to do with your agents, or if you're a single agent, the pre-work you have to do with yourself. The pre-work is key to show you what you've done in 2024 and what you hope to get in 25. Do not skip the values and why exercises either. I could relate this from, again, another unforeseen marathon example. Everyone wants to beat their PR, like, oh, I did this and I'm gonna go faster. If you have this goal, like, oh, I sold X number of houses, I wanna sell more, and you don't tie it to why you wanna sell more, it's just a thing that you said because everybody else said it. And if you're not believing in it and you don't have a reason, if it isn't, for your kids or your loved one or for yourself or for your parents or for your business goals or to get out of debt or whatever it is that's usually actually pretty personal, if you don't tie it to your values, you're not gonna jump out of bed without hitting the snooze button 10 times, and you're not gonna actually take it seriously. So you have to tie it to your why. Do not make, how many people here run a team? And a team is like anyone more than one person. Okay, and how many are individual agents? The rest? Okay, perfect. If you are running a team, it can't be about your goals and not the team's, right? Let's say you're at that stage in your life. I can relate to this for myself. My kids are gone. We're empty nesters. We're kind of loving life right now. And I actually have time to have fun, but I actually have time to work. I'm not going to soccer games. I'm not going to lacrosse. I don't have to go to spelling bees. So I have more time, and I might be in the season to work more. And maybe my, 4 deals or 6 deals or 10 deals a month is different than someone else who's trying to do 1 or 2 deals a month consistently. So if someone doesn't have what your goals are, there's no judgment there. You should actually be looking at the whole table and be, Kenny, what's your goal? Emily, what's your goal? You take all the goals, you add them up. That's the beginning of your team goal. And then if you're gonna round it up and you want your team to do more, now you know you need to hire, right? It's not me convincing Emily that she should sell more houses because her goal is tied to her why. And don't make it a one and done event. Business planning has to be part of your culture. It has to be more than one. So let's get into it. Next slide. Okay, we're gonna get into it. So the slide after that. Okay, so there's 3 steps to business planning. The first step is setting a calendar date with yourself and doing the assessment of where you're at. The next step is creating a business and a life plan. And finally, the third step is integrating it and attending business planning events, which you can only do when you do steps 1 and 2. Let me show you what I mean. Next step, slide. Okay, so setting a calendar date with yourself. I like to pace, so I'm just gonna go in front of the screen over and over. So setting a calendar date with yourself, I'm reading this for you so you can read it, and we'll get you slides after. I don't have a fancy QR code, but we'll get you slides. This could be an hour or 2, but it should give you, go get a cup of coffee, go sit near the beach, go sit on your back patio, go find your favorite chair, and craft out a couple of hours where you really think about what your goals are, where you want to be, and how do you work backwards from that. You have to set time with yourself and you have to turn it off. I was just telling someone the other day I went to lunch. I actually had lunch. I sat down. I wasn't actually looking at my phone. And I actually had lunch for 45 minutes. I don't remember the last time I did that. To take time with yourself to think about your plans is really, really important. We have a business planning tool sheet on our Place portal, but basically tools to create, essentially, whether it's a spreadsheet or it's a Google form, you need to have a place to record some of the data. And again, I'm gonna show you templates, but you can create this yourself. And also it could be a whiteboard or a piece of paper. Don't get so caught up, the last panel talked about tech, right? Don't get so caught up on the tech that you get paralyzed, like, oh, I don't have the right tools and it can't be perfect, so I'm not gonna do it. This can be very old school. But assess the tools and kind of get the worksheets and start, again, prepping and planning. And set goals for the new years, right? We're gonna look at income goals, we're gonna look at unit goals, but part of this date with yourself is starting to do the goal setting. Now, this is really important. If I have a team of 4 agents and we're coming together in November for a business planning session, they need to do this work before we get together. They need to know what they did. They need to know how they feel about it. Most people, I can ask you right now, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but some people are really happy with their 2024. Some people are disappointed and ready for a reset for 2025. It doesn't really matter if you're happy or not. What matters is we're looking at 2025 now, and we have to look at what happened in 2024 and learn from it, right? And make the adjustments. If it's a lot of good in 2024, we're going to do more of that. If there's things that fell short of expectations, we're going to figure out why and figure out what we need to tweak so that that doesn't repeat in 2025. So you're going to set goals for the new year using some of the tools provided. Next slide. You also have to get your head right. I mean, this is more than just spreadsheets and units and income and goals. This is also your mindset. Why do we do this? Why do we slog day in and day out? As Emily was talking about appointments, right? If you have one metric and it's appointments, like, what do we do when we don't feel like doing it or we're getting rejected? In my market personally, again, good or bad, it's the gentleman who talked about rates, you know, whether the election is good or bad or whether rates are good or bad, they're essentially what you believe, right? In my market, we were facing some layoffs. Our largest employers were having layoffs, right? And I've got a lot of people waiting for the election. And so what do we do? What's our mindset? What's our, you know, for me, it's a numbers thing. I got to talk to more people because people need my help. I'm just going to have to talk to more and more people to find the people that need my help. And we came off of getting really spoiled, right? I mean, it was like, you know, we listed it on Thursday, the offers are due on Monday, and how much over do you want to go to, did I put the right area in MLS? Because I'm not getting any showings, right? It was a very extreme change in some markets. And so that mindset is really important to understand so that you go into your business planning, understanding exactly what's going on mentally. So you want to reflect and get your head right. If you're an agent, meet with your lead agent if you're part of a team or your team leader of your office to present your first version of your business plan. This is a pretty iterative thing. You're gonna create a version and you're gonna wanna work on it and iterate it. And so having even a loved one at home, a colleague, an accountability partner, or someone in management in your office so that you can bounce things off of is pretty key. You're gonna look at, you know, your path to profit, your economic model. You're gonna look at conversion rates. You should, at some point, the path is really in the math. You should know, in order to get an appointment, how many phone calls is that? How many contacts is that? And as you get, over time, as you really get good at your data, you actually know what the activities you need to get the results that you want. So let's go on to the next slide. That's like the first kind of mental, like creating a date with yourself and start to really think about what's happening. Now we want to really look at what happened in 2024. This is the mirror. Holding the mirror up to your business. What did I do for net income? Total transactions? What was my average sales price? What's that split between buyers and sellers? Listings taken versus listings closed? Buyer broker agreement signed versus buyer deals closed? Average dials made in your CRM, and in our case we use Brevity as well. Total appointments set. These are the numbers that you should know today, November 6th, where you're at to date and what you project through the end of December for 2024. So that's the mirror for your business. Next slide. This is a continuation of that first slide. From the numbers, what was your dials to your appointment ratio and appointments set to closings, right? If you know the appointments, your dials, your appointments, and your closings, you could start calculating those ratios. You should estimate how many hours you've prospected weekly. Don't put down that I did 3 hours a day because I'm supposed to, so I did 15 a week. Put down what you actually did, right? And business days not worked, right? And again, no judgment here. I'm actually one of those people that doesn't work a lot when I'm away. And how I make up for it is I work really hard and really effectively when I'm in the office too. So like you can find different strategies that work for you. So, but knowing how many days you're available and how many hours you're prospecting are key indicators to your success. Next slide. So we've kind of looked at 24, held the mirror to our business. Now we got to look at the gap, right? I had stated goals for 24. Did I hit them or was I off? If I was off, am I ahead or behind in my progress towards my goal? So like, it's a pretty simple question. Am I there? Am I ahead or am I behind? I said I was gonna sell 100 houses. I'm at 83 to date. I have 7 pending and I've got 23 more days, essentially in November, to try to get a December close. Maybe I'll get a cash offer in December, maybe not, but I know pretty well right now where I'm gonna close the year, as an example, right? And if I said I was gonna do 100, I'm at 83 plus 7, I have a gap of 10. What are the changes I need to make for the goal I have set for 25? So if I was short, now next year, do I wanna do that same 100? Do I wanna do less, or do I wanna do more? That's a question for you. You might be like, you know what? It was a great year. If I could do the same amount as last year, this is what I do usually every year. How can I do the same and take more and more time off? Because at some point for us, I do have a level, enough is enough, and I want to have a quality of life too. So it doesn't have to be, I did 100 this year, how do I do 150 next year, or 300 the year after, or 500 the year after that? Depends on what your goals are. But if you're happy with where you're at, then let's look at 25 being a version of what 24 was, and understand what, if you're behind, how you make up that gap. If you are not behind, but you're like, you know what? I know I could have done a few things better. I think that things are gonna ease up. I would love to see my business go up 20%. My goal was 100. I kind of hit it. I wanna go to 120 next year. You pick that goal. By the way, we know all the Harvard studies and everything. Stating a goal is like one of the biggest ways to actually hit the goal. Stating the goal and telling people about it. And even if you have a crazy goal, like I did 100 this year and I want 500 next year, most people will laugh at you, but you'll likely do way closer to 500 than if you would have said it, you were gonna do 100. Meaning even going for 500 and missing will usually get you way higher because you started creating habits for 500, right? So it just depends on what you want. So if my new goal is higher, what are the activities I need to do and the actions I need to add? Simon, I know you're stressed. I'm watching my timer, so don't worry. Oh, I've got a couple of minutes, good. And what did I do well? This is one of the things we do wrong at conferences. We go to a conference and we're like, I'm not door knocking. I'm not doing Craigslist. I'm not staging. I got to go start all this stuff. We end up always as humans looking at the things other people are doing that we're not and saying, oh, I want to try that. And by the way, that is okay to do. Maybe you try one thing, but how about we look at what did we do really well? What's our superpower that I do better than anyone else? Maybe I do more of that. Emily was saying she's a connector and she connected with the bus driver and did a seminar essentially. And she did really well at that organically. She might have in her plan, I'm gonna do more of those. I'm gonna do that at my kid's daycare, or I'm gonna go do that at the bank at where my spouse works or whatever. So do what you do well, find out what you do well and find ways to do that more in your plan. Next slide. So we've analyzed the gap. We asked ourselves what we did well. We also be honest on what didn't work. I tried this tool. I thought I would get all these leads from it. It didn't work. My contract's up. I'm done with it, right? So make sure you're shedding things that didn't work because you looked at it and you realized it didn't do well for you in the year. Based on that, you're gonna have your top 3 priorities for this next quarter to prepare for the year, right? You start chunking it down to priorities. Next slide. So once you've done this, you end up creating your goals for 25. It's really the same data that we tracked in 24, but now they become your goals for 25. Next slide. You also want to build in that mindset and habit stuff as well. What personal goal or domino will impact your life more than anything else? What habit would most keep me consistent in the next year? It could just be I'm gonna wake up and walk for 30 minutes before I start my day. If I do that one thing, I wake up at a certain time and I go to the gym in the morning, it's gonna change my life, right? This gets down to what are your values that for you personally, and how do you design your day? Guys, I'm just gonna tell you one of my favorite hacks. If you look at your photos in your picture, in your role, those are the things that matter in your life. If you look at my photos, it's my family. There are a lot of food pictures. There's a lot of fitness stuff lately. But when you start looking at your phone, that's who you are. And then you go look at your calendar, and is your calendar matching the photos, right? Maybe my photos are my son and my daughter, but my calendar doesn't have my son and my daughter in them, right? So that's a quick way to look at your values in your phone camera roll, and then look at your calendar and say, is it matching? Sometimes we're on 4 calls a day, Zooms, because we said yes and we never questioned why. And because we've always done it, we just keep doing it. And it's not in line with our values. It's not helping us achieve our goals. So what can I do that will best prevent burnout and create joy in what I do? And what am I the very best in doing? We're almost here. I'm just wrapping up. Next slide. We had a whole panel on this. What can I use more? What leverage should I be using? What am I doing that I can get someone else to help me with? What skills can I create this year? What's in my growth plan for skills? Maybe there's listening to Kenny. Maybe I need to do more video, authentic video. That's great. I was intimidated by video because I wasn't doing the highly produced videos. But if he's saying bumbling, talking heads are back, I can maybe get back into that. Maybe video will be my one thing. Right? And so it doesn't have to be 20 things, but pick a couple things that are deliberate for skills that you want to do. Next slide. So the last step now, and just wrapping up, this is an example for place, so some of the dates are off, but once you do the prep work and you have your event, which is an in-person event, by the way, I have a lot of content on this. If you ever want to attend like a full presentation on how to do the full day, like talk to me, we have replays for you on that. But the main thing I want to tell you is you'll have your event and you have to bake it into everything you do. So this is an example from Place where we do the preparation. There was a team call. We have Friday calls. There was a team call just on business planning last week. It's been sort of the theme for we do it every Friday, a team call, and Simon and John can invite you to the team calls if you're ever interested. There's a call actually today with Brendan Burchard about business planning. And then a lot of our teams in our Place network are doing their business planning tomorrow. It doesn't have to be the 7th, it could be any day, but it's really fun when you do it with other people and you compare notes on what people are doing for their business planning. Next slide. Then we've got a monthly prospecting day. And then the last thing a lot of people are doing is after they do their business planning, they do a vision board exercise with their team, because now we've got a plan, we know our why, whether it's cutting stuff out of a magazine or thinking about what their vision is, you gotta tie that piece in. The main thing you can't do is you can't have these goals just go back in the black folder or notebook and just put them in a drawer. There should be, you know how in United Way or whatever, Jerry Lewis Telethon, there's a thermometer, right, for your goals. You should have what these goals are in everything you do. They should be in your dashboard in your Brivity or CRM. They could be on a whiteboard piece of paper that's in your office. We said we're gonna help X number of families. We said we're gonna set this many appointments. We said we're gonna do a giving goal. We said we're gonna do this. How are we doing? It should be in your power-ups. It should be in your one-on-one conversations, single agent with your team leaders. And then if you're a team leader with your agents, how are we doing? If you don't measure it regularly, it is just something we do every November. It has to be ingrained. That's it, I think. Last slide. This is the last slide, I promise. Translate your goals into action steps, like I said. So take this and make it actionable. My lead gen activity shows up in a time block. I've created space each morning to review my goals. Every night I'm reflecting how I did and I'm looking at what my top 3 things are for the next day. I'm creating space to plan and review, and I've time blocked for distractions. Like, yes, there's gonna be terminations. There's gonna be offers to write that we didn't know about. But your lead gen time should be sacred, and you should have blocks of time to handle those distractions as well. So last but not least, last slide, I think it's just wrapping up. I'm available if you have any questions or comments. I know I covered a lot. But honestly, back to love it or dread it, love it. It's really fun. You can really have the best year ever if you look at what went right this year, what didn't go right this year, and you set the tone on what you want to accomplish. So thank you very much.
Awesome.